All right, welcome to Pro Football, the first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, I'm strictly talking the first 50 years, from 1920 to 1970. I mean, you can go online, and I mean, especially if you're checking out a game from like the 20s or the 30s. Obviously, you can find out the box score, who won, who lost, who scored a touchdown, how far the field goal was, maybe somebody kicked, what the attendance was, where the game was played at. You could probably even find starting lineups for each team. But exactly what happened during the game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, a little news flash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that going on. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. And today's game, first game of the regular season, 1959 for both these clubs. NFL championship aspirations. Not really. Both these teams were pretty horrible during the 1959 season. Both teams just especially for the Cardinals. I mean, they were like redheaded stepchilds in Chicago to the Bears. They were always playing second fiddle to them. The game here between the Redskins at the Chicago Cardinals at Soldier Field, September 27, 1959. Now, the Cardinals, I mean, as I said, they're 1960, they would move to St. Louis. 1958, they played at Comiskey Park. Now they played at Soldier Field. For four of their home games, two of them, they would play in Metropolitan Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So they were like all over the field, and you know, it just kind of just showed. I mean, 2 wins. Newsflash: this game would be one of the Cardinals' 2 wins all season long, and the Redskins were not much better. They would only win 3 games all year long. So between the two, won a total of 5 games. And the Cardinals had a couple good teams in the late 40s, but during the 50s, it was very slim pickings. Then they would move to St. Louis. The 60s were. I know they had at least one good year in the 60s, 1970, with Charlie Winter as their coach. I believe they finished 8-5-1, and for a while there, they were right at the top of the NFC East in 1970, and then they lost a bunch of their games toward the end and finished 8-5-1. But and then Don Coryell would come around, and they had some success in like from 74 to 76, 77. And then, so Cardinals didn't have much going for them. They won the championship in 47 and in 25. The Redskins here, 59, they hadn't been to the championship game since 45. They wouldn't have. They would only win 3 games this year. Vince Lombardi, 10 years later, would take over for one season, whip them into a winners at 7-5-2, and then of course George Allen would come around in 1971, and from 71 to 77, they had a very successful tenure there. Having a winning season every year that George Allen was there. Of course, they got to the Super Bowl 1 year, but I mean, 1959 was not good, very good for either one of these teams. Now, interestingly, with the Cardinals, let's start off with the Redskins here. All right. Now, you just see there's not many on this schedule. There's not many W's, period. We got a grand total of 4. They won 1 game in preseason. They beat the Rams, who might have been maybe either not the worst team in football that year, maybe the second worst team. The Redskins would beat the Steelers, and they would beat this Cardinal team, but not on this day, September 27th. And then just to go to show you on any given Sunday, the defending NFL champion Baltimore Colts and the 1959 champion Baltimore Colts would only lose 3 games all season long, and one of them was to the Washington Redskins. Just goes to show you, on any given day, the Washington Redskins at home at Griffith Stadium beat the Baltimore Colts 27-24. But I mean, interestingly though, the Redskins would lose this game, then they would win their next. So they were actually 2-1 at one point. Then they finished 3-9. So you could just see they just lost a whole bunch of them in a row. I mean, they were sharing. Obviously, you see here, their home field was in Griffith Stadium, but they were sharing it with the Washington Senators baseball team. So they did not play a home game until, you see here, I mean, their first home game was October 11th. Now, funny, just goes to show you how times have changed, right? September 27th, this is the opening day game. I mean, nowadays, here it's 20, since, we're about 6 months away from the start of the 2026 season. But you can see, I mean, in 2026, by the time the September 27th rolls around, the teams would be like on their 3rd or 4th game already. They didn't start their season until the end of September. And you can see here, by not even the middle of December, the season's over. I mean, nowadays we're playing into January, just because obviously the amount of games that are being played now, because obviously 59 only played 12 games. But the Redskins here played, obviously, most of the teams did 6 preseason games, 12 regular, so they played a grand total of 18 games. 33% of the games they played were exhibition games. I mean, that ain't happening nowadays. With the way the amount of money that these guys get paid nowadays, it's they just kind of like bubble wrap the guys. I mean, more or less, it's obviously the games that played nowadays for the preseason exhibition, whatever you want to call it, is very important to the backup players, the guys trying to make the roster. Now, if you look here, obviously with the Cardinals actually played 7 preseason games. They played 19 games. 7 of them were like exhibition preseason, but one of them, the first one, was they played in Toronto, Ontario, against the Toronto Argonauts. Argonauts. I say tomato, you say tomato. I'm not sure. I didn't look too deep into it. But somewhere along the line, I'm going to be doing a video on this game. Haven't done it yet, but possibly because of Pop Ivy, the coach of the Cardinals, was the head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos. And he was very successful with the Edmonton Eskimos. 4 seasons here. I mean, he finished in first place every year. Actually, his final season before he came to the Cardinals, he was 14-2. So the guy could coach. But you'll see here, when he came to the Cardinals in 1958, they were 2-9-1. This year they're 2-10. Now they did have a nice jump here from 2-10 to 6-5-1, which is very impressive for back then. You kind of figured the Cardinals, the object would be to keep building on this. Go from 2 wins to 6 wins, and hopefully maybe 7 wins or 8 wins. But it just was not meant to be. They fell back to 5-7. Then he became the coach of the Houston Oilers of the AFL for a couple of seasons with mediocre results. Then became the assistant defensive coach. I mean, I think he should have stayed in Eskimo in Canada, because he was the defensive coach for possibly the worst defense in the history of the NFL. The New York Giants gave up over 500 points in a 14-game schedule. I mean, their defense was absolute, total freaking garbage. Absolutely. They gave up the most points ever in a regular season game. They gave up 72 points to the Washington Redskins, and he was their defensive coordinator, defensive coach. Giants finished 112-1. The most points scored in a game was the 1940 championship game where the Bears beat the Redskins 73-0. But the most points scored during a regular season game was in 1966. The Washington Redskins scored 72 against the New York Giants. So he was perhaps not a very good defensive coach. And then again, he was made, and then he took on a 5-year hiatus here or something. But then he came back and he coached the Giants offensive line in 1971, and they weren't very good either. As you can see, the Giants finished 4-10 in 1971. So, but anyway, so maybe possibly, as I said, I didn't look into it, but that might be the reason why the St. Louis Cardinals played their first game, preseason game. Actually, it was August 5th in Toronto. But you'll see here, and actually, they actually won that game. And I don't know what the rules were or anything like that, but then you see, I mean, they played the Lions, the Steelers. I mean, they didn't do too bad in preseason. They actually beat the Colts in preseason. So actually, what were they? 4-3. But when the games counted, and actually, if you want to look like this, right, if you include the first game of the regular season, they were 5-3. First 8 games, 7 preseason and the first game regular season. First 8 games. Once again, it was just regular season, most of them. But they were actually 5-3. But then you'll notice after that, I mean, their defense was not very good. Their offense, a lot of games, was not very good. I mean, 7 points, 7 points, 3 points, 7 points. They gave up a lot of points defensively. They were just not a very good team. They had a couple good players, but all in all, just not very, very good. The game was played at Soldier Field. Then they played at Comiskey Park. The Cardinals. It was a very crazy time for the Cardinals. They were always played, I said, second fiddle to the Bears. They had a very difficult time attracting a crowd. You'll notice here they played a game against the Bears at Soldier Field, and they drew over 48,000. But you'll notice the other games that they played at Soldier Field, they played 23,000, 19 or almost 20,000, 21, almost 22,000. So you draw 20,000 people to a game. That's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. And you'll notice here 2 of their home games, they played the Eagles at Metropolitan Stadium. They only drew 20,000. Then they played the Giants. And these were the Cardinals' home games. They moved them from Soldier Field to Minneapolis, Minnesota, or Bloomington, Minnesota. And against the Giants, they only got 26,000 fans. So they just couldn't draw. So in 1960, the Cardinals moved to St. Louis. One of the biggest reason was because of the emergence of the AFL. The NFL wanted to expand as much as they could and start taking up some big cities, as many cities as they could. So why waste 2 teams in Chicago, especially if one of them was struggling? Let's put one of them in a good sports town. Maybe occupy that sports town, and that'll hurt the AFL's chances of having a prosperous team in St. Louis, as was the case in Dallas, because you had the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Texans, a.k.a. the Kansas City Chiefs, 1960. Both teams newly formed in 1960 in Dallas, but because the Cowboys pretty much were part of the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys had bigger crowds, drew more attention and all of that, and the Dallas Texans could not survive or having a hard time, I guess, surviving, so they moved to Kansas City. They became the Chiefs after a few years. So, I mean, the Cardinals were, the Cardinals in 47 won the championship. 1948, they went back to the championship. They lost in a blizzard at Shibe Park to the Eagles 7-0. But then after that, the 50s was just a horrible, horrible time for the Cardinals. And as you see here, they just could not attract the crowd. They were always playing second fiddle to the Bears, and they were just trying to get out of there. They were trying to find some place to move. And they went to Bloomington, Minnesota, where the Vikings Metropolitan Stadium started playing in 1961. But you notice, and as I said, I mean, it wasn't like they had big crowds there. They only had 20,000, So the Vikings did much better, obviously. But, I mean, it was just a bad time for the Cardinals overall. Now, as I said, they played this game here. It was in Soldier Field. After they played in Comiskey Park for a while. But, I mean, it really didn't even help much at all, moving to Soldier Field. They just had and another one of the things, too, was it was a very difficult time because back for both the Cardinals and the Bears, because I don't quite understand, but I was reading some articles, and they said usually between the Cardinals and the Bears, one of the teams was playing at home. Obviously, one team was playing on the road maybe that week. The other team played at home. They didn't want to have both teams at home the same week where they would really hurt each other financially, So what it was is the whoever the away team was in Chicago during this particular week, week 1, the Cardinals were playing at home against the Redskins. Well, that game was aired. I still have a hard time. It was aired in Chicago, the home game. Now, the only thing, the away game was the Bears played in Green Bay. That game was on radio, but you couldn't get that game in Chicago on TV. They wouldn't air it. So you had to maybe go to a city or whatever outside of Chicago to see the Bears play the Packers. They wouldn't air it. You could hear it on the radio, but you couldn't watch it on TV. Now, one thing it didn't make much sense to me. Why would I want to, and it was TV station or so aired the Cardinal game. Why would I want to, why would I want to watch a home football game where I can watch it on TV? I mean, it's great going there and all that, but I mean, if I can sit home and watch it, why would I want to go to it? So, I mean, to me, that seemed like that kind of is counterproductive there. I mean, you're trying to get people to the game. Why are you airing a home game? But is what it is. All right. So this is where the Cardinals played 1 year, 1959, Soldier Field. Then this was the opening game of the season for the 1959. Soldier Field is a multi-purpose stadium near the south side of Chicago. Opened in 1924, the stadium is served as the home to the Chicago Bears. This is 1971, as well as the Chicago Fire, soccer. Soldier Field has served as the home venue for a number of other sports teams in history, including the Chicago Cardinals and the NFL. Hosted the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, CONCACAF Gold Cup. A lot of things. I mean, obviously, unbelievable, beautiful, beautiful stadium. Bears moved in. Before they moved into the stadium, the Bears had played select charity games at Soldier Field as early as 1926 when they played their former crosstown rivals, the Cardinals. The Cardinals also used the stadium as their home field for the final season in the city in 1959. The Bears in 1971 moved into Soldier Field full-time, originally with a 3-year commitment. The Bears previously played their home games at Wrigley Field. Well, they said from 1970 prior. So on September 19, 1971, the Bears played their first home game at Soldier Field, in which they defeated the Steelers 17-15. So you got here, 1961, Chicago Bears practicing for the Armed Forces Benefit football game. Looks like maybe Mike Ditka right there. Soldier Field, 1963. Beautiful, beautiful stadium. Now, of course, now there's talk The Bears may be moving to Indiana. So, unfortunately, the Bears may not be in Soldier Field much longer, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, that would be an absolute shame to have the Bears move out of Chicago. There you got here, right? Aerial view of Soldier Field during the renovations in 2002. It's a big, huge stadium. Soldier Field after interior rebuild with maintained exterior below. I mean, yeah, Soldier Field in 2022 from the east. I mean, it's come a long way, baby. Let me tell you what. I mean, Soldier Field during the 1926 Army-Navy game. Now, right, this is this has been colorized. But I mean, just goes to show you how many people watch the games. I mean, because back then, I mean, the only way I could maybe listen to it on the radio, but other than that, no TV, nothing. If you want to watch a game, you got to go there. NHL Stadium Series, I guess the outdoor game. I mean, the only thing is the shame is how far away you are. You know what I mean? From you know what I mean? But what a beautiful venue. I mean, man, to have hockey in there. Oh my goodness. Motorsport race at Soldier Field, 1951. Jeez. I mean, just unbelievable. There we go. What we got here? Soldier Field before a soccer game in 2004. I mean, just look at that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to say grass, but it's a pitch. Not a field, not a grass, not grass. No, it's a pitch, the pitch for soccer. Here's another. All right, what we got here? Soldier Field during the 2000, the CONCACAF Gold Cup. So I do have some pictures here. I think should be from the Cardinals. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Nope. That's not it. You apologize, F70. Here we go. This is like the only, one season. There we go. Got over here. Chicago Cardinals versus the Bears football game. Here we go. Cardinals versus the Steelers, Soldier Field, Chicago. This is an NFL program. Here we go. Chicago was once home to two NFL teams, the Bears and the Cardinals. Let's see here. Soldier Field was built in 24, but didn't host a pro football team until 1959 when the Cardinals played there for one season. Now, I mean, games had been played there, obviously, but the Bears, didn't play there. I mean, usually up until 1970, they were playing most of their games was at Wrigley Field, and obviously early in the 20s, Wrigley Field wasn't called Wrigley; it was called Cubs Park. But yeah, so I mean, you had this huge freaking stadium, right? And none of the pro teams took advantage of it, but it's a shame. And the Cardinals started to take advantage of it for 1 year, but you could just see what I was kind of showing you. It was just their attendance was just not very good at all. Yeah, the Cardinals. There we go. Let's see here. There's the Cardinals. It's probably the Cardinals Bears 1959 game. So there we go. Cardinals versus Cleveland Browns, Soldier Field, 105. The game will be over in time to watch the World Series on TV. Good seats are available. So it was not a good time at all. Now here's the Cardinals. This looks like I'm going to say this is at Giant Stadium right here. It's not. It says Chicago Cardinals at Soldier Field. This is not. No, I'm going to say this looks like them playing at the Giant Stadium. But anyway, it was just not a good time. This was not a good time for either team. But so let's get on to some articles here. All right, share screen. Let's see here. All right, we're going to go to the September 27th, 1959 edition of the Evening Star. They talk about a little bit of the pregame. The Redskins open today with the Cardinals. Redskins and Cardinals opened up their 1959 National Football League campaign here today with some 25,000 fans. Whew. Expected to see the action at Soldier Field, 25,000. Could you imagine? I mean, what a laughing stock it would be. I mean, it was probably a laughing stock back then too, but I mean, in today's modern football, if you only had 25,000 fans show up to a game, wow. The stadium would be, a lot of stadiums would be like 1/3 filled. Whew. The kickoff is scheduled for 2:05 Washington time, and the game will be televised and broadcast over WTOP TV. So check your local listing. The occasion will mark Mike Nixon's debut as head coach of the Redskins in league competition, and the one-time All-American halfback from Pitt is hoping for a better performance than the team turned in while combining a 1-5 record in exhibition games. Well, he'd be they're very disappointed. It's not a good season for him. And the Redskins only won 3 games, 59. Well, it got even worse in 1960. So there were 11 new Redskins, though, also will make their first league start, although 4 of them, Bob Hudson, Bob Toneff, Bill Stitz, and Richie McCabe, have had league experience. Another player, Eagle Day, is a veteran of 2 years in Canadian football. 2 rookies are expected to start on the defensive unit, Ben Scotty of Maryland, and at wingback, Dick Haley of, okay, now I got to go here. Now, let's see. Yep. Hopefully it's on this page here. Oh, maybe not. All right, well, trying to find. Well, I do apologize. There's so many sports pages. Holy cow. Well, I do apologize. Trying to find the rest of that article. Unfortunately, a lot of times they don't put them on the same page next to one another, or right back to back or anything. I get you got to kind of go like look and find them here. Well, I do apologize. Redskins page D5. Well, all right. I do apologize. That was just opening up, and And I do apologize for wasting time there. So let's start the action here. Let's see here. So we're going to go to, once again, we're going to go to here. All right. We're going to go to the Evening Star, the Washington, D.C. paper, the Evening Star. September 28th, 1959. Cuts are threatened in Redskins ranks after trouncing by Cards. The bombs dropped on the bumbling, fumbling Redskins in yesterday's 49-21 rout by the Cardinals before 21,892 fans at Chicago's Soldier Field may have resounding repercussions today in the Washington front office. Wearing a troubled frown instead of his customary smile, Coach Mike Nixon may dismiss one and possibly three players after conferring with owner George Preston Marshall. Nixon wanted a look at the game fields after a cooling-off period before making up his mind, but a cut or two seems in order. One of the few apparently safe from Nixon's wrath is halfback Dick James, whose 3 touchdowns tied a Redskins record. His 41-yard trip with a throw from Eddie LeBaron for Washington's second score of the third quarter easily was the day's most spectacular play. The eel-like back slipped through Night Train Night Train lanes and Leo Sugar to reach the end zone. The Get Tough policy. Mike announced a new Get Tough policy with 3-hour practice sessions. Wow, starting tomorrow instead of 1-hour drills. Ooh. Can't do that nowadays. Oh my, how times have changed. Maybe I've been too easy on them, he said, but I thought we had real pros who could get the job done without spending all day practicing. From now on, we'll work until we know what we're doing, even if it takes 5 hours. Wow. Can't do that nowadays. That's a no-no. Additional work also should help a few party members who wouldn't win any physical culture awards in this writing. Against the Cardinals, their sag showed on several occasions. It was a day of frustration almost from the start for the Redskins. Got some stats here. Now, overall, don't get me wrong, the Cardinals didn't have a great defense either. So, Redskins, 23 first downs, almost 200 rushing, over 200 yards passing, 15 out of 25 with only 1 interception. That's not a bad day. But once again, they weren't going up against a good defense either. Only punted 3 times, but they lost 4 fumbles. Only had 31 yards of penalties, not bad. But defensive-wise, my goodness, look at this. They gave up almost 570 yards. Wow, their defense was just trash, straight trash. Whew. 3 fumbles and 1 intercepted pass choked off scoring chances in the first half. Wow, 4 turnovers in the first half. Whew. While almost everything the Cardinals attempted seemed to go right. Bobbles are costly. Rookie Emil Karras gave Nixon's men their opening gambit by latching on to King Hill's first pass on the Chicago 44. But after they moved the ball to the 16 with LeBaron's 15-yard toss to Bill Anderson featuring the advance, Carl Brecht Schneider intercepted a throw intended for Joe Walton on the 4-yard line. Well, there's some points right there. James' 20-yard punt return put the Redskins back on the 30, and he took it down to the 8 before LeBaron hit hard when lineman missed a blocking assignment, fumbled twice in. Oh. Okay, so let's go here. A17. Let's see. Let's see here. See how far we got to go here. Whoops. Is that it? Nope. Let's see. Oh, we got another page or two here. Let's see. There we go. It is right. So you see that there's the Redskins. They got the two feathers on the back of their helmet. The Cardinals got like nothing on their helmet, just a big white helmet. Right. So we got the picture here. Halfback Ed Sutton of the Redskins does an aerial leap as he is brought down by Ed Culpepper, 73, and Carl Brettschneider, 57, of the Cardinals in the first quarter of yesterday's game. At left is John Roach, number 33 of the Cardinals, who won 49-21. All right. Jim Schrader retrieved the ball after LeBaron fumbled, but Ed Hussman grabbed the second for the Cardinals. LeBaron bobbled the ball again early in the second quarter, and Marion Rushing, a rookie from Southern Illinois, recovered for Chicago, ending a 66-yard Washington march on the 8-yard line. So, they just shot themselves in the foot time after time after time. They could have easily had, however, 2 or 3 more scores. So the game would have been a little bit closer. Let's see. Johnny Olszewski was the culprit in the third quarter after the Redskins had reached Chicago's 38. And on the last play of the game, rookie Dick Haley of Pittsburgh miscued on the kickoff, losing the ball on his own 21 to Maury Schlecker, a first-year man from Penn State. Bobby Joe Conrad. The Redskins worked long and hard against the Cardinals' varied offense last week, but you wouldn't have known it as Coach Frank Pop Ivy's men ran up more points than any other Cardinal 11 ever scored on Washington. Woodley Lewis' spectacular 85-yard score on a pass from M.C. Reynolds with a 7th touchdown, was the crowning blow. Hill, who completed 14 of 23 passes for 229 yards, and Reynolds, who hit on 3 of 5 for 102, picked on the Redskins' wobbly secondary like sitting ducks, and there was nothing the losers could do about it. Bobby Joe Conrad scored 3 touchdowns and kicked 7 extra points for a total of 25 and a new individual scoring record against the Redskins. His first 2 were on the thrill side, the first coming off a double reverse straight down the middle for 35 yards. The second was a 56-yard run, and the third came on a 5-yard toss from Reynolds, climaxing a 78-yard march. John David Crow scored Chicago's first touchdown on a 9-yard pass from Hill near the end of the first period, capping a 63-yard march after LeBaron's second fumble. Conrad's first run made it 14-0 in the second period, and Sonny Randall, a rookie from Virginia, made it 21-0 at the half with a 22-yard pass from Hill. So all of those turnovers, it was 21-0 at the half. So basically, what do we got? Second half, the Cardinals scored 28, but the Redskins scored 21. So the second half was relatively even. But all those turnovers that the Redskins had in the first half, they were down by 3 scores. Well, they got down into the Cardinal territory a couple times deep, at least 3 times, and turned the ball over. So the game could have been quite a bit different. However, it doesn't look like the Redskin defense could have stopped anything. Like they couldn't even stop me. Hill himself reeled off successive runs of 27 and 29 yards to post the Cardinals' next touchdown. Finding no receivers open either time, the 2 plays brought a stinging rebuke from Nixon, who wrathfully said, "No quarterback in this league should be able to roll out and run like that." The former Rice star, who was his team's bonus choice last year, pitched his third touchdown on a lateral to Conrad, who covered 56 yards, with John Tracy taking out the Redskins' Ben Scotty to assure his safe passage. The Goog. Ralph Guglielmi, the Googe, I call him, takes over. That made the scoreboard read Chicago 35, Redskins 7. For James, meanwhile, had scored from the 4-yard line at the end of a 61-yard drive featured by LeBaron's 35-yard pitch to Anderson. James got his second 6-pointer less than 4 minutes later after putting the show on the road with his 30-yard run on the kickoff to his own 41. Then Ralph the Googe from Notre Dame, Guglielmi, who had a good day with 3 completions and 4 passes for 51 yards, was at the controls when the Redskins went 49 yards for their final score. The Googe replaced LeBaron, who was shaken up. After making a brief appearance in the opening quarter, the touchdown came after an 82-yard strike in the Cardinal territory bogged down on the 3. James slipped on the climactic play after taking a shovel pass, but he made no mistakes the next time the Redskins drove downfield, circling in for the last 3 yards. And you can just see it. It was, like I said, obviously, right, the second half was very, both teams scored 14 points, and, it was relatively close, but, obviously, you're down 21-0. It makes it very, very difficult. All right, so now we're going to go to the Chicago Tribune. What do they got to say? So let's go to let's see here. September 28th, 1959, version of the Chicago Tribune. This was a good game. This was Vince Lombardi's first ever regular season game, and it was a victorious one here. The Packers beat the Bears 9-6. But Cardinals win, Bears lose. Conrad stars in 49-21 NFL opener. Chicago Cardinals struck for 7 explosive touchdowns Sunday afternoon to make their 1959 National Football League inaugural a rousing 49-21 success. It was the Cards' debut in Soldier Field, and everybody went home happy except the Washington Redskins, who were victims of one of the South Siders' most devastating offensive assaults of all time. They gained 569 yards. Whew. Led by Bobby Joe Conrad, a lean second-year halfback from Texas A&M, the Cardinals gained a whopping 569 yards from scrimmage. Whew, wow. That figure is only 10 yards off the Cards' all-time high output amassed in 1948 against the New York Giants. Well, in 1948, the Cardinals were very good, 47-48. Very good. The 2 very good teams. Conrad scored 3 touchdowns and kicked 7 extra points for a 25-point total. Best individual performance in the history against the Redskins. So you figure, a modern day game, like, if somebody scores, anybody, a running back, whatever, wide receiver scores touchdown, they're not kicking extra points. So to beat that total of 25 points in the modern day, the guy would have to score, pretty much like 5 touchdowns, unless somebody would score 4 touchdowns in a game and get a 2-point conversion. That would give him 26 points. So the 25 points that Conrad scored is a pretty monumental feat. The Cards swept to a 21-9, shouldn't be 9, 21-0 halftime lead, matching the Redskins 14 points in the, all right, let's see, page 3, 14 points. There we go. 14 points in the third quarter, and put the icing on the cake with the last-minute touchdown on a pass play that covered 85 yards. John David Crow, King Hill, Ken Panfill, Frank Fuller, and Ken Gray. These were among the heroes of the Cardinals' triumph, cheered by a throng, 21,892. Now you can see it here, back here, right? It looks like, oh my God, it's a packed house. Well, not necessarily. But who do we got here? Dick James. He was like the only one, one of the few that had a good game for the Redskins. Dick James of Washington plunges 3 yards for a touchdown in the fourth period as John Roach, number 33, of the Cardinals, fails to make a tackle. Crow, the Cardinals' wing-footed left halfback, gained 121 yards on 8 rushes. Wow. Jeez. I don't know, what is that? 15 yards a carry? Holy cow. He scored the game's first touchdown to ignite the Cards' fireworks display. The blocking of Panfell and Gray repeatedly sprang loose Conrad, Crow, and the other Cardinal speedsters Fuller acquired from Los Angeles in the offseason trade for Ollie Matson, who was an Iron Man in the Cardinals' defensive line. Probably the most pleasing aspect of the victory to coach Frank Ivory of the Cardinals was the aerial accuracy of Hill. After a succession of so-so performances in the exhibition game, Hill finally found the range. He threw for 2 of Chicago's touchdowns, and his afternoon's output was a commendable 14 completions and 23 attempts for 229 yards. Oh yeah, back then that's pretty doggone good. Oh yeah. MC Reynolds, who was injured early in the preseason campaign, took over for Hill late in the game and passed for the final 2 Cardinal touchdowns. The crowd cheers the attack. The Cards' colorful double-wing T attack drew repeated cheers from the Soldier Field assemblage as a succession of intricate handoffs, double reverses, and delayed pitch-outs were employed with remarkable success. Downfield blocking in many instances was responsible for the long gains. In their 7 touchdown marches, the Cardinals drove 504 yards in just 41 plays for an average of 12.3 yards per play. Wow. Basically, every play they had, they averaged a first down in those scoring drives. Wow. Crow's opening Cardinal touchdown came on a 9-yard pass from Hill and culminated a march of 63 yards in 6 plays after Fuller tackled Washington's Eddie LeBaron and Ed Hussman recovered for the Chicagoans. It was 14-0 early in the second quarter after Hill, Crow, and Conrad worked one of Ivy's patented double reverses to perfection. Conrad sprung by Gray's crushing block on a trap maneuver, bolted over the Redskins' right side for 35 yards for a touchdown. Just before halftime, the Cards struck again, taking the ball on their own 32. The Chicagoans covered the distance in 4 plays. Wow. Passes by Hill to Sonny Randall and Crow set the stage for Hill's 22-yard touchdown throw to Randall, who cut in front of Washington's Ben Scotty and wheeled into the end zone. There was one more Chicago touchdown before the hosts finally allowed Washington to score. Early in the third period, Hill faded to pass, then bolted around and after Crow had removed 2 Redskin obstacles on the 15 with 1 block, sprinted over the goal line. Dick James then scored the first of his 3 touchdowns for the Redskins on a 4-yard plunge. Got more, or is it just that? I think that's it. Okay. So you could just say right here, right? I mean, 250 yards rushing, 319 passes. Wow. Woo. Redskins penalized 3 times for 78 yards. Wow. Not a very good day. All right, so now let's go see what the Baltimore Sun has to say here. Baltimore Sun, let's see here. Go to the September 28th, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. Packers beat Bears, Cards whip Redskins. With Bobby Joe Conrad scoring 25 points, the Chicago Cardinals today. Let's open it up here. Linked up 7 long touchdown thrusts to wallop the Washington Redskins 49-21. Opening of the National Football League season brought only 21,892 customers to the Cards' new home in Soldier Field and left them enthused about the Big Reds title chances. Well, they might have been enthused for a brief, short period of time, but I can assure you their title chances did not last long. The victory was the largest ever rolled up by the Cardinals over the Redskins since their series started in 1937. Halfback Conrad, a second-year man from Texas A&M, scored on runs of 56 and 35 yards and a 5-yard pass from MC Reynolds. He also booted 7 extra points. Reynolds also connected on an 85-yard aerial touchdown play with Woodley Lewis in the final seconds of the game. So it just goes to show you, because if we're talking final seconds of the game, it would be what? 42-21, right? I mean, nowadays they're not throwing passes, I mean, unless the coach really wants to give it to the other team or something like that. That's very rare that you see anything like that. 98% of the time, whatever, you're up 42-21. You're up by 3 touchdowns with a minute to go in the game. I mean, you're just running the ball, or basically you're just trying to take a knee, let the clock run out. You're not throwing the ball. Let's see here. Cardinals' number 1 quarterback, King Hill, rifled a 9-yard scoring toss to John David Crow and a 22-yard pass to rookie Sonny Randall of Virginia. Hill also tallied on a 25-yard run. The Cards unleashed their hoopla offense for touchdown rips of 63, 64, 68, 80, 74, 78, and 77 yards. Wow. What those drives. Wow. These 7 ROMs totaled 504 yards and consumed only 41 plays, a remarkable 12.3-yard average on each play. Jeez. Conrad streaked 140 yards and 11 carries. Hill hit on 14 of 23 passes for 229 yards, and Reynolds 3 of 5 for 102. In all, the Cardinals gained 250 yards rushing and 319 passing, a total of 569 net, only 10 yards shy of the all-time Cardinal record. Redskins' best ground gainer was Don Bosler with 89 yards on 9 runs. Eddie LeBaron made good on 12 of 20 aerials for 198 yards. Washington's 3. Now let's go to here. Washington's 3 touchdowns all came in the second half and were made by halfback Dick James. The first was a 4-yard slant that ended a 61-yard drive in 3 plays. James' second tally was good for 41 yards after taking a pass from LeBaron. His third was good for 3 yards after a 27-yard pass from Ralph the Googe to Bill Anderson set it up. The Cardinals' 85-yard touchdown aerial in the closing seconds capped a 3-play thrust that actually covered a net of 77 yards. Reynolds had been spilled for a loss before making the scoring pass to Conrad. So I don't know. He was spilled for a loss. He was dropping back. They're up 42-21 in the final minute of the game, and he's looking to make a pass, and he got sacked. And then he throws the ball again. I'm going to say once again, that's not happening in today's NFL. I mean, could you imagine the backlash? Like, say if your starting quarterback or any of your quarterbacks is in there, and you're up 42-21, and you're out there with 30 seconds to go in the game. You get the ball and you're running around. You're up by 3 touchdowns. And you're looking to throw the ball and you get tackled and something happens to your knee or you get hurt or something like that. Man, could you imagine the backlash on that? Whew. I said, that was 1959. That's almost 70 years ago. I mean, that's not happening. Nowadays, you're up by 3 touchdowns in the final minute of the game, you're taking a knee. And for the most part, the other team's not calling timeout. You just take a knee, let the clock run out, shake hands, and you walk off the field. All right, we got one more here. We got the Washington Daily News. This one's not real long either here. All right, the Washington Daily News. So we're going to go to the September 28th. There we go. The September 28th, 1959 edition of the Washington Daily News. Nixon to crack the whip. The tough to see kind of picture here. Redskin and Bill Anderson takes in a pass from quarterback Eddie LeBaron. The Chicago Cardinal halfback Jimmy Hill tries to break it up during the third quarter yesterday at Chicago. Pass was good for 30 yards, but the Cardinals still won 49-21. So kind of tough to see it. Redskin here. There's a ball over here somewhere. But Mike Nixon to crack the whip. A drastic shakeup starts today in the Washington Redskins, whose pitiful showing in the National Football League opener was brought even their nice guy coach down on them. There are too many complacent players on this club, said Coach Mike Nixon after the Redskins blew several scoring opportunities in a 49-21 game to the Cardinals yesterday. Those who aren't giving up us 100% effort, and there are only 15 who are, will stay with us only on a week-to-week basis, Nixon said. If they perform consistently bad, we'll fire them. We don't have room for those who are living on their past performances. The axe is slated to fall on three veterans whose lackluster play contributed heavily to the debacle at Soldier Field, where the Cardinals ran up their biggest score in history on the Redskins. Nixon said he would announce the cuts by tomorrow. He pointed out that one back had been coached on how to defend the Cards' one-man screen pass some 30 times during last week's training. Ooh. Yet gave up long yardage every time it was worked against him yesterday. So, point out that one of their defensive backs was coached how to defense the Cardinals' one-man screen pass so 30 times the previous week. And yet every time it happened, he gave up big yardage. So, wow. I can see honest mistakes, but there's no excuse for anything like that, Nixon said. Nixon singled out 15 players, including rookies Ben Scotty from Maryland and Don Lawrence from Notre Dame, who he considers as doing their best. That doesn't mean that Nixon and his staff are satisfied with the performance given by the 15, particularly in the Cards game when the entire defense, including left wingback Scotty, were bombarded for 7 touchdowns, 4 via the air. Oh, yeah. But the desire which has been so conspicuously absent in the others, some of them proven stars, is very much in evidence. Eddie LeBaron, Ralph the Googe, Don Bossler, Johnny Olszewski, Red Stevens, Dick James, Jim Schrader, Don Ball, Bill Anderson, Joe Walton, and Johnny Carson, no relationship, of the offensive unit, and the defense's John Pollock and Ralph Felton are the others whose jobs seem secure. But the others are definitely in jeopardy, said Nixon, who is giving up his kid glove treatment on his players. No more practices will be limited to just 90 minutes, wow, he said. If I decide they need 5 hours out there on the field, they'll get 5 hours work. We're going to be in good shape and before next Sunday. That's when the Redskins play the Steelers, 17-7 conquerors of the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh Saturday night. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, whatever he was doing seemed to work pretty well because the Redskins actually won their next 2 football games. And they were actually 2-1. But I just can't understand it, said the disillusioned coach. You treat an athlete decently and he responds this way. We got James was a standout. Terrible, he said, looking at the final statistics for the Redskins season opener against the Cardinals in Chicago Soldier Field. And then he added, sincerely, I just wish I could have done a little better. If there was one Redskin of whom a better performance could not be asked, it was the speaker, Dick James. The little 5'9" 1/2" 178-pound halfback from Oregon University was easily the outstanding player on the Redskins, if not on both teams. James carried 10 times for just 33 yards, including 4 3-yard touchdown runs, and his 41-yard reception of an Eddie LeBaron pass late in the third quarter was the game's most thrilling play as he shook off 3 tacklers and raced 20 yards to score. He made it strictly on individual effort. Fullback Don Bosler was the Redskins' workhorse, carrying 9 times for 89 yards with good blocking from the center of the line. Center Jim Schrader and guards Red Stevens and Don Ball. But the Cards ran up a 21-0 halftime lead with their tricky triple and double wing offense and were ahead 28-0 before Washington could even score in the third quarter. Bobby Joe Conrad, a speedy 195-pound sophomore pro halfback from Texas A&M, added 140 yards, 11 rushes, and scored on 25, 35, and a 45-yard run. A 5-yard pass from number 2 quarterback MC Reynolds, and 7 conversions. The Card TD drives range from 64 to 85 yards, with King Hill getting off payoff pitches to John Crow and Sonny Randall. Reynolds completed an 85-yard scoring pass to Woodley Lewis on the final play from scrimmage. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, obviously nowadays, final play of scrimmage. Not that it was. I don't know how far the pass was. It was a short one. The guy ran 85. But if you're up 42-21 in the final seconds of the game, you're just taking a knee. But they had us going early in the game, but couldn't punch over, said Cards coach Frank Ivy. That gave us time to get set up. It was. The Redskins had plenty of chances in the first half to punch the ball over, kick a couple field goals or something, and make the game a lot closer. But all their turnovers that they had did them in. The Redskins offense lost 3 of 4 fumbles, including 2 deep in the Cardinal territory in the first half when they were still in the game, which is very, very true. They had their chances, but, and even so, their defense wasn't stopping anything. So it just goes to show you it was just not a good, showing by the Redskins. The Redskins somehow would win their next 2 games and somehow would actually be 2-1 at one point. And they would actually, I think that at 2-1, I believe they were after 3 weeks. There was only one team after 3 weeks that was undefeated. So the Redskins would win their next 2 games, be 2-1, and actually be sitting tied atop the Eastern Conference for just a short period of time. Then they would wind up losing all but one of their final games, and they would, wind up toward the cellar at the end of the season. As they would, the Cardinals, absolutely horrible season. They would win this one game, and then of their final 11 games, they would only win 1, and for a grand total of 2 wins. I said that it was not a good time at all to be a Chicago Cardinal with the Chicago Cardinals organization or a Cardinal fan, because they didn't know where to call home. They didn't know where to go to home. They played at Comiskey Park in 58. Then they played at Soldier Field in 59. They also played in Bloomington, Minnesota in 59. And then in 1960, they went to St. Louis. So not a good time for either team. So that's the way it was on this date, September 27th, 1959, as the Washington Redskins played the Chicago Cardinals at Soldier Field in pro football, first 50 years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.